Let's not beat around the bush. Nobody was expecting 2009's Arkham Asylum to be any good, largely because up until that point most comic book games had kinda sucked. But hey, as you probably heard, this one completely blew everyone away. 2 years on and it isn't even a question of whether the sequel should be on your shopping list or not. It's more about figuring out how many days skiving off work it deserves. And you'll want to. Arkham City does more than simply impress. It manages the impossible.
You could argue that it's all very familiar, which is true. Yet if you did, you'd be missing the bigger picture. It's not just the scale of the sequel that's been taken up a notch. The scripting, the soundtrack, and the performances are genuinely head and shoulders above the majority of what you'll find out there on the shelves. If Arkham Asylum knocked everyone's expectations out of the park, then this one sends them stratospheric.
It's not only for Batman fans though, it's a great game first, love letter to the Dark Knight second. If you fancy yourself as a bit of a creative, then this is the sort of title that will be absolutely terrible for your self-esteem, as it makes you realise how ridiculously talented some people are. Picking up the story about a year after the events of Arkham Asylum, things have gone from bad to truly awful. Part of Gotham has been walled off and the city's most dangerous criminals are left to rot inside. Besides already being a health and safety nightmare, Warden Hugo Strange is making his application to the Pantomime Villains Society by throwing anyone who speaks out against his pet project in with the lunatics. Even without these neon supervillain bullseyes, it's clear that he's planning something big down there, so it's up to you to find out what. Toss in a whole raft of villains from the Joker apparently at death's door to one very unique take on the Penguin, and you're left with a gorgeously tense story which bottles everything that's great about the source material while still managing to go in bold and totally unexpected directions. Don't be fooled into thinking that this is a case of style over substance though. Arkham City is the perfect mix of gameplay and plot, with both working in absolute tandem. It's been said before, but if it doesn't make you feel a little bit more like Batman, then it doesn't go in the game. Stealth sections are all about preying on your enemy's fears, side missions have you putting your detective skills to the test, while combat forces you to think on your feet like the Caped Crusader to keep ahead of overwhelming odds and superior firepower. Because of this, Arkham City doesn't force you down any particular path. The fun is all about experimenting and finding your own way to resolve any given situation. It's a rare title in the way that it can distill the essence of what makes Batman great without saying a word. It's just a kick to the teeth that one of the biggest flaws of the comic series is stowed away into Arkham 2. Okay, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Arkham City can be a little chauvinistic at times. There are literally no women prisoners beyond the big names, so I presume all of Gotham's ladies are busy rocking the stereotype by staying at home playing on Wii Fit whilst knitting. And the ones who do mean to misbehave, well, they look like they got lost on their way home from a Playboy shoot. Harley Quinn is more or less a poster girl for Ann Summers' kinkier dress-up section, Poison Ivy takes her job as a lingerie model, so seriously she doesn't really like to wear clothes at all, and Catwoman is pretty much a walking wet dream. This would appear to be how those characters play out in the comics, but come on, that's like saying anyone with double Ds must hereby walk around in a bikini. It's daft. Thanks to Arkham's trump card, you'll end up remembering them for much more than their feminine qualities, at least. Even if you spend the majority of your time ogling Catwoman's ass, upping the visitor count to Gotham's ER or dashing about the rooftops advertising your underwear, none of it would fly half as well without developer Rocksteady's intimate knowledge of what makes the characters so appealing in the first place. Nowhere is this more obvious than with the supporting cast. It may be true that far too many are crowbarred into the 8 or so hour running time, but a razor-sharp focus on the personalities behind the costumes gives you a taste of exactly who they are for one of the most fully realised rogues galleries in gaming. To be honest, this overcrowding is one of the only real issues I have with the game at all. Since each villain comes packaged with their own agenda, it's all too easy to lose sight of the main plot. You'll get distracted trying to work out what the Penguin's after, what Mr. Freeze is up to, and why the hell there's a giant shark in amongst it all. On top of that, Rocksteady spend way too long on inconsequential side stories. By the halfway mark, it's difficult to pinpoint who the actual villain is. It feels disjointed.
Fortunately, when it gets going again, the plot is fantastic. A willingness to take risks you wouldn't think they'd dare try keeps the surprises coming, making this one of those just a little bit more titles that can have you up until 3 in the morning. As a cherry on the cake, the voice acting is never less than superb, whilst the finale is a coup de grace that really doesn't pull any punches.
This solid writing also continues well beyond the campaign with some fascinating backstories that add even more layers to the main plot and an interesting spin on traditional side missions like time trials. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but take my word for it, Arkham City is worth exploring. If you don't, you'll miss out some of the most memorable parts of the game, not to mention an insanely detailed map that is drowning in fan service. If you can avoid becoming addicted to hunting down Riddler trophies or solving his puzzle rooms scattered across the map, you're a stronger-willed person than me. Batman Arkham City is by far one of the best titles out there in a year full of them. Even if it has issues with a bloated roster that tries to squeeze in too much, it's hard to care when the rest of the game is so stellar. Regardless of whether you're a fan of the Batman or not, you need this game in your life.
Cheers for watching, guys and girls, and check back soon for more content. If you want to find out what I've been doing in the meantime, please go over to www.gadgetreel.com for our written pieces and a podcast. And if you want to keep up, then follow us on Twitter at GadgetReel, or you can follow me at TheWordyman. Hopefully I'll hear from you soon. Catch you later!